We are prepared to start the public hearing on House Bill 3042. If you would please find a seat, that would be great. Want to welcome everyone here. Thank you for taking your time to come and participate in this public hearing in the West Virginia House of Delegates. Just a couple of things to go over. I want to briefly state some procedures and rules that will apply during this public hearing. The House Rules of Conduct and Decorum are in full effect during these proceedings. When I call your name to speak, I will also announce the person next to follow you. When I call your name, if you could come and be ready on deck, so to speak, so that we can try to move this through as quickly as possible. When your allotted time to speak is over, the red light on the podium you see there will light up. Please immediately wrap up your comments at that time. Due to the number of individuals that have signed up to speak, each individual will have 1 1/2 minutes to speak. Please hold any public displays of support or opposition in any manner. That is one of our House rules. Please do not engage in personal remarks about members or other individuals. And if you have any written testimony you would wish to submit for the record, please give those documents to our clerk immediately to my left. And I thank you. So we are ready to proceed. I will now start with Pastor Dan Stevens, followed by Rick Wilson. Please proceed.
I want to first of all say thank you to this esteemed legislative body for the opportunity. Montini sempre liberi. Mountaineers are always free. Religious freedom is enshrined in the text of our state constitution. We, as West Virginians, do not take our rights for religious liberty for granted nor lightly. HB 3042 reinforces the rights guaranteed in Article 3, Section 3-15 of our state constitution, assuring that we as citizens may teach, practice, follow a lifestyle in accordance to the dictates of our moral conscience without fear of government intrusion or judicial overreach. We, the people of faith of this great state, want the same benefits of equal protections just like those who oppose this bill. We want to live out our firmly held religious beliefs and convictions about marriage, the family, human sexuality, the value of human life from conception to the grave without fear. This bill is designed not as a tool of discrimination used by the people of faith, but to protect the people of faith against discrimination from those who are opposed to our beliefs and our lifestyle. This bill simply provides a check against unfair government action on religious beliefs. In conclusion, one of our founding fathers, John Adams, wrote the following: "Be it remembered that liberty must at all hazards be supported. We have a right to it, derived from our Maker." I respectfully ask this esteemed body to approve this bill. Montini sempre liberi.
Thank you, Pastor Stevens. Rick Wilson, followed by Gary Zuckett.
Thank you. My name is Rick Wilson from what's left of Milton with the American Friends Service Committee. Speaking in opposition to this bill, religion is a huge part of American life, and religious liberty has helped make the country what it is today. However, there's always been a distinction between the beliefs that people hold and the actions they take in the public sphere. And we're aware of many religious groups that have engaged in activities I think most of us would consider to be unacceptable. You know, in some groups, children have been abused, domestic violence has been justified, discrimination and hate against certain groups has been encouraged and in some cases incited, animal cruelty, various things. And so I think we agree that religious beliefs, however sincerely held, don't justify these kind of actions. And so in defense of religious liberty, the Constitution, I believe, is enough, and I believe that religious freedom should not be used to justify discrimination against any group, particularly today in this context on the basis of sexual orientation or identity. It should not be used to privilege one religion over another religion. It should not be used to deny other people health care. It should not be used to weaken public health measures to protect us against communicable diseases. And above all, religious freedom should do no harm. The Constitution is good enough. Thank you.
Thank you. You're Mr. Zuckett, correct? Gary Zuckett, followed by Jessica Eplin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Gary Zuckett. I'm Executive Director of West Virginia Citizen Action. And we stand opposed to this Bill 3042. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Religious freedoms are enshrined in our Constitution. We don't need this kind of legislation muddying the waters. If it ain't broke, don't break it. This legislation seems designed to take away local control of counties and cities to determine how they can best make their localities work for all their citizens. On a personal note, I was raised a Methodist. I went to Sunday school. I was confirmed into my congregation. But I don't need my government protecting or enforcing my religious views. These are personal and private. This type of legislation is a slippery slope that erodes the separation of church and state. Where will it end? Well, it could be taken to two extremes. It could end like having the one true religion running the whole darn country like it does in Iran, with the Ayatollah and the religious police killing young women because their headscarves aren't adjusted correctly. Or it can manifest like it does in Red China, where the state runs the religion and tells the worshipers what they can believe and what's off limits, and sends believers in the wrong religious beliefs off to forced labor camps to be re-educated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zuckett. Jessica Eplin, followed by Catherine Jones. And if Ms. Jones could go ahead and come up to the podium and be ready, that would be great.
Hello. Lawmakers here are telling citizens to leave the state and that it's about to get a lot worse for you if you disagree with them. They have called rape victims pathetic, voted against parental rights, voted against you being able to make health care decisions. They have allowed preachers to come in here and say that we all deserve to burn in hell. Some support organizations that are actively banning or planning to ban birth control. We arrest women for talking too loud, all in the name of Jesus. Most won't return a phone call or email, and the sponsors of these bills most of the time don't even show up to these hearings or reach out to professionals. They have admitted on the floor that they use Google and do no actual research when writing these bills. They are not addressing real problems of West Virginia, and I think most of them are out of touch with reality. Some care more about being able to discriminate than they do about someone you know who can't afford their medication. They want a gun in every school, but not a tutoring program. Exercising your religion does not mean discriminating or condemning people because they do not have the same beliefs as you. I was harassed at a gas station before coming here. I told a man I did not want his pamphlet for his church, and he got mad and decided to tell me that I was going to go to hell today. I've had enough. As an atheist, as a mother of a trans child, as a mother in general, as a woman, I'm done.
Catherine Jones, please hold your applause and respect the House rules. Catherine Jones, followed by Veronica Jones.
Hi, my name is Catherine Jones. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm here today as a member of the LGBTQIA+ community. This bill is going to do nothing but legalize discrimination against already marginalized communities. West Virginia is in the top 5 for poorest states. We're number 1 for drug overdoses, 15 for worst roads, 47th in education. We have 7,000 plus in foster care. We have the worst health care in the nation. We're in the top 15 for pollution, and we're in the top 8 for racism. Yet we're here today discussing whether or not my girlfriend and I should be allowed to have housing, should be allowed to eat at a restaurant, should be allowed to go out in public and just have the normal services that everyone else can get. I should not have to be afraid of not being served at a restaurant, because I have a different relationship than you do. This bill will do nothing but spread hate and violence across our state, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Mountaineers are always free? Sure. I'll believe it when you guys show it.
Veronica Jones, followed by Rose Winland.
I wrote probably 50 different speeches to say today, but what can I say that my beautiful lesbian daughter did not just say? Every time she has to walk out the door, I fear that she'll be raped by a redneck man who thinks that all a lesbian needs is a good hard one. I fear that she'll be beaten or killed because of who she is, because she lives her truth. My daughter is beautiful. You saw that. She's intelligent. She's talented. She was a child prodigy, a professional ballet dancer at the age of 14 years old. An artist. She has several different certificates and degrees, and she's working towards her degree in criminal justice, courts, and law because she wants to take your place. She deserves it. You want to create a law that literally will open the door for hate crimes against a community that you don't agree with, but you don't have a right to not agree with who they are. Yes, I agree in religious freedom. You have that freedom, but your freedom stops when their rights are gone.
Rose Winland, followed by Mike Wilson.
I want to talk about freedom as I see it in our legislature in 2023. This religious freedom took away my right to bodily autonomy. This religious freedom is attempting to take away parental rights to decide what is best for the health of their child. This religious freedom is casually and regularly overstepped in schools throughout West Virginia who subject faculty, staff, and students to majority religious pressure through Christian prayer, regardless of the spectrum of religious beliefs in attendance. This religious freedom negatively permeates our culture, a culture in which just yesterday, a group of Muslims gathering peacefully on our Capitol steps were jeered at by legislators and subjected to epithets from driving passerby. This religious freedom ends where my freedom from your religion begins. It doesn't need restored. It needs to be respectful and reciprocal. Do better than you've been doing. Vote no this time, for Christ's sake.
Mike Wilson, followed by Maddie Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I have to admit, I find the need to have a debate on the necessity of protecting religious freedom a little disheartening. I truly believe that we have the greatest nation in the history of the world where religious freedom has been the cornerstone of our founding and civil liberties. As early as the 1600s, American colonies were passing religious freedom acts. The First Amendment of the Constitution included civil liberties that the framers considered the most important: freedom of speech, the press, assembly, the right to petition. But what was the first freedom they mentioned before all these? The First Amendment begins, Congress shall make no law respecting an established religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Thomas Jefferson said the constitutional freedom of religion is the most inalienable and sacred of all human rights. The federal government felt it important to pass religious freedom legislation 30 years ago with the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. It may surprise you that the lead sponsor of that House bill was Congressman Chuck Schumer of New York. A bill that passed the House on a voice vote and passed the Senate with a bipartisan vote of 97-3. It was signed into law by Bill Clinton, a Democratic president. In the 30 years since passage, RFRA has not damaged our economy, has not discriminated against groups or individuals, and has guaranteed religious liberties for millions of Americans. I strongly urge passage of this legislation. Thank you.
Maddie Connolly, followed by Jen Lord.
Y'all, we already have religious freedom. It's guaranteed in the U.S. and the West Virginia Constitution, and we're just trying to live, just without trying to worry whether we're going to be denied services or health care or employment or housing, or just randomly be like, you know, just because somebody decided that like it's against their beliefs. That's all I have to say. Please vote no.
Jen Lord, followed by Samuel Green.
Hi. If the purpose of this bill is to forbid excessive government limitations on exercise of religion, I would then ask how this isn't already covered by the freedom of religion located in the U.S. Constitution. If a state action is to substantially burden a person's exercise of religion, it is to infringe upon that First Amendment freedom. I believe this bill speaks to further prop up an already protected class and creed, and I'm opposed to the notion that they will only use it for defense. The nature of this bill being posed is the state working against those unprotected while fortifying those who already have the right. Thank you.
Samuel Green, followed by Dr. Timothy Holsclaw.
Hello, my name is Samuel Green. I am the Vice President of Huntington Pride and co-founder of the West Virginia Trans Coalition. More specifically, I am 21. I'm a social work student at Marshall, and I am a son and a brother and an uncle and a husband. And I love West Virginia. I grew up here. But I'm trans and I'm queer, and this bill threatens my ability to live here and live the life that I have been trying to live here. We know that this bill isn't about upholding religious freedom. It is to strip away the safety of all minorities in this state. But we are West Virginians just as much as you, and we deserve to be here and feel safe just as much as you. I want you to look at us, all of the people that are here speaking in opposition to this bill today. We are people, and we are your neighbors. If you can hear us begging and pleading here today, and still say that West Virginia would be better if we can be denied education and housing and safety and employment, then you are failing to uphold the religion that you're trying to protect here. Where is your humanity? Where is the love that is so clearly emphasized in the Bible? Do you truly believe that your religion is more important than the lives of every vulnerable person in this state?
Dr. Timothy Holsclaw, followed by Dottie Sayer.
Thank you, sir. I'm so thankful that we're having this open forum today to be able to truly talk about the House Bill 3042 that has come up for consideration. I'm excited about this bill, and was even more excited than back in 1993 when our nation's capital, both the Senate and the House of Representatives, voted overwhelmingly for this bill. President Bill Clinton, with great joy, then signed it into federal law. Yesterday, I went back and saw the actual video of that signing, and with great joy, and all those which were connected to it were rejoicing that this law was passed. Since then, 23 states across our nation have signed bills just like this one, even California, and have seen growth in their states. This bill is not to divide, but to unify and to protect the First Amendment to all faiths from the overreaching of government. We saw this overreaching during COVID, with churches around our nation being fined thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars for just meeting for service, while other entities and businesses were open for business. This is overreaching. So this bill is not about discrimination of race. It is not about the discrimination of gender. It is about the constitutional right we all have in the pursuit of happiness and our worship. There's unity even in this house, this religious unity. I was watching one of the sessions just last Wednesday, and to see the ashes of faith upon the delegates on both sides of the aisle. In faith, there is unity. So please pass this bill to help support and protect the many branches of religion throughout our state. We are almost heaven, West Virginia.
Dottie Sayer, followed by Megan Moses.
First off, I would say, Danielle Walker, I just want to tell you what I'm about to say has nothing to do with you. I love and respect your work. You have my blessing and my vote. As for the rest, I have no delusions of swaying a bunch of pseudo-moralistic heretics. In this very room, I have watched mothers beg for the lives of their children and be ignored. 83-10, I watched you paint targets on the backs of children to advance a theocracy. I had so much more to say, but honestly, there's no point. This bill is a mockery of what my kind already know. Whether you pass it or not, the damage is done. It's proof, further proof, that you're more willing to create turmoil than to actually stop and fix something. I want to address my fellow pagans and my fellow queers. Those who would do us harm cannot tell the difference between us, and neither can I.
Megan Moses, followed by Jack Jarvis.
Good afternoon. My name is Megan Moses. I grew up in Charleston, West Virginia, then lived in Virginia 10 years as I attended the University of Virginia, then Washington T. Lee Law School, to go into practice law in Richmond, Virginia as a corporate defense attorney for 3 years. In 2011, I came back to my home state of West Virginia to work for my family's business. We've been in operation for 75 years and employ over 500 people in the state. I'd respectfully ask for you to vote no on House Bill 3042. This bill is unnecessary, as the freedom to practice religion is already protected under the First Amendment. Historically, Bill Clinton did sign a federal bipartisan bill like this 25 years ago. However, since that time, legislation such as this unfortunately become battered, as it's been used to discriminate against others under the guise of religious freedom at times, seriously infringing upon that person's fundamental individual rights and liberties. Since then, numerous courts have struck down similar laws in many instances, warning it can result in unintended and negative consequences for those states. For example, various RFRA laws have been used to deny service to those who do not share similar belief systems. They've been used to justify child labor violations and in defense of child abuse and domestic violence suits, just to name a few. Unintentionally, laws such as this can undermine other statutes that protect public health and safety, put undue burden on local governments, force judges to make decisions about religion, could result in tax dollars being spent in litigating these issues. For example, in Dallas, Texas recently, $1 million was spent in a legal battle over requiring local religious groups to follow city's food safety standards. As a business owner, I'm concerned about how this type of legislation can impact our economy. When Indiana passed similar legislation in 2015, it cost the state an estimated $256 million over 6 years, as various Fortune 500 companies in the Big Ten Conference decided to eliminate or drastically cut their spending in that state.
Please wrap up your remarks.
Population decimation is real here, and I'm afraid that 50% of residents between 18 and 34 said they're considering leaving West Virginia due to this legislation, or the direction of our legislature.
Thank you, Ms. Moses.
Sorry.
Thank you. Jack Jarvis, followed by Isabella Cortez.
Good afternoon. My name is Jack Jarvis. I'm the Communications Director for Fairness West Virginia. I've been confused to hear folks say that this won't hurt our economy. We know that this is a bill that, although it's called the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, is nothing more than a license to discriminate. And that's an expensive license. Like the previous speaker said, this bill cost the state of Indiana a whole lot. And let's just look specifically at the city of Indianapolis. In a year following the state of Indiana passing this, the city of Indianapolis lost out on $60 million of tourism because major conventions pulled out. Folks, our state is not in a place where we can turn businesses, corporations, or major events away. And this will do that. And it will also turn away our bright, young, talented West Virginians. I'm 28 years old, and I can tell you that a lot of the folks my age don't see themselves here in West Virginia much longer. There was a poll that recently came out that showed that 50% of folks between the ages of 18 and 34 are considering leaving our state in the next 5 years. Why? Well, we'll tell you, they are considering leaving because of the direction of our state's politics. Freedom of religion is already protected in our state by the U.S. Constitution and Article 3 of the West Virginia Constitution. All this will do is give folks a new door, a new way to try to overturn the small, limited protections that we've won for our community. Thank you.
Isabella Cortez, followed by Ryan Hubbard.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Vice Chairman, for having me. My name is Isabella Cortez. I'm the Gender Policy Manager at Fairness, West Virginia. We've talked a lot today about how this bill would increase and even legalize bigotry, but I want to take some time to talk about the far-reaching effects that you all may not even have considered when it comes to legislation like HB 3042. In Virginia, a pastor kidnapped a child and then used laws like RFRA as a defense. When a religious leader in New Mexico was found guilty of sexually abusing children, he appealed by citing the state's RFRA law. With this law on the books, police could refuse to serve members of a certain community because of what they cite as religious beliefs, and the same goes for pharmacists, government agencies, and other businesses. A law like this one, like the one proposed, like HB 3042, could and would exacerbate issues like domestic violence, public health, and more. It would give people less of a reason to live in West Virginia, much less those here thrive here, and that would happen through state-sanctioned bigotry. We already have freedom of religion. Religion is already protected in both the United States Constitution and the West Virginia Constitution. These laws do not help protect religion. They help people discriminate against minority groups. And I do think it's a little amusing that we would cite a federal law from 30-ish years ago when I know numerous lawmakers in this chamber do not look to the federal government for how to act. Thank you.
Ryan Hubbard, followed by Katie Kane.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. As a lifelong resident of West Virginia, I'm in support of HB 3042 because I believe it will help ensure the government recognizes the impact of its rules and regulations on religious expression. In practice, HB 3042 would ensure churches in West Virginia are not closed by government order when secular institutions are left open. In some states, they had casinos and movie theaters were still open. Moral implications aside, that doesn't make any sense. It would also require the government to have a very strong reason to close or limit the free exercise of religion. HB 3042 applies to restricting the power the government has to limit religion and the free practice of religion in West Virginia. I have memories of my mom growing up, and she would say, in West Virginia, we do everything 10 years behind everybody else. 23 other states have passed legislation. California has it, South Dakota, Montana most recently passed it 90-0. This bill would help West Virginia, it would help my home. So the delegates here today, please pass this.
Katie Kane, followed by Gina Milam.
Hi, my name is actually Katie Coyne, and I'm here today with Fairness West Virginia. I'm the Policy and the Communications and Operations Manager there, and I'm here to speak against HB 3042. And I want to talk to you in doing so about love, because that's a big theme in every religion. I hear the members of this body all the time, both here at the bar and public, talk about how they love West Virginia, they love its people, and they want to do what's right for us through love. But what does that really mean from you? And what are you really doing to show your love? Across this state, thousands of people, and I've met them, live without access to clean drinking water. Parents, and even more now since you have forced them to give birth against their will, cannot bathe their children or mix formula with the water that runs in their homes because of safety risks, because of public health risks. And where's your love for them? In 2021, the CDC declared the most concerning, and that's a direct quote, HIV outbreak in the United States among people who inject drugs is right here where this building lays in Kanawha County. I have never heard a single member of this chamber bring that up or issue any sort of solution for that problem, an ongoing problem. We have hundreds of communities where raw sewage is piped directly into drinking and recreational water sources, and we're making money off of those water sources. We're telling people, come here, we have a great tourism system, and we're not telling them what the dangers of that really are, or investing in infrastructure solutions to fix that. You're introducing legislation to solve a problem that doesn't exist, and this bill is about nothing but codifying bigotry against already marginalized people. Our foster care system is broken, our roads are crumbling, and our water is polluted. These are real problems, and you are some of the few you are some of the privileged few who have the actual power to solve
Thank you, Ms. Coyne, and I apologize for
it's okay.
mispronouncing your name.
I have one more question for you, and honestly, really, when you go to bed tonight, ask
Thank you,
yourselves,
Ms.
how is
Coyne.
this love?
Thank you, Ms. Coyne. Gina Milam, followed by Sam Henson.
Hello. I had no intention whatsoever of speaking here today when I got up this morning and got dressed and ready to go to work. I was here on a work trip, and then I heard about this hearing that was going to happen, this open mic session, as it were. And I thought it was important that the legislators in this room see me, an old white woman from Wayne County, West Virginia. I'm straight, and I voted every time there was an opportunity since 1978. There are more people like me than you guys realize. We are allies. We have gay and trans friends and family that we love. We're watching the hateful legislation that's coming out of this chamber and the one across the hall over here. We're watching this. What you all need to understand, you think it might be trendy right now to hop on this red wave, but it's not going to last forever. And I see the Gadsden flag down there that says, "Don't tread on me." Well, that also means, it should be interpreted to mean, don't tread on others. And that's what this law and the laws that are coming out of this legislature are doing. Remember that Gadsden flag the next time you want to take rights away from a minority or from women. Remember, don't tread on us.
Sam Henson, followed by Andrew Schneider.
This bill creates legal uncertainty and raises ethical concerns. It could allow teachers to refuse to teach certain material and grocery clerks to deny service based on religious beliefs, making survival even harder for marginalized communities. In the landmark 1947 Everson v. Board of Education Supreme Court case, they ruled that neither a state nor the federal government can set up a church. Neither can pass a law which aid one religion, aid all religions, or prefer one religion over another. This would be in direct conflict with the Supreme Court ruling, as well as the First Amendment Establishment Clause. Allowing individuals to use religion as a defense in discrimination cases sets a dangerous precedent and undermines civil rights protections. It could also lead to harm in medical situations where doctors could refuse treatment based upon their beliefs. This bill could have a chilling effect on marginalized and vulnerable communities, and it's your duty to protect their rights. Thank you.
Andrew Schneider, followed by Rusty Williams.
I'm Andrew Schneider. I'm the Executive Director of Fairness West Virginia. As a gay Jewish man, the remarks I'm about to read, submitted by Rabbi Bob in Huntington, who could not be here, struck a personal chord for me. I'm writing to state openly my opposition to the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. As a rabbi and gay man, I feel this act will do more harm than good for our state, and using religion as the basis for this goes against everything this state and country stand for. If you look back at history, you can see how religion has been used to discriminate against Jews and gays. I myself have felt the sting of anti-Jew and anti-gay slurs hurled at me because of who I am. I have been denounced by pastors and ministers for causing God to bring tornadoes and hurricanes because I have a husband. I have been told that I killed Jesus by clergy who are upset that I do not accept their teachings. These are things I and other religious minorities and LGBTQ plus people live with every day. However, to pass an act that will make it legal to discriminate against us because of religious beliefs is to say quite explicitly that we do not matter.
Rusty Williams, followed by Candace Newsom.
My name is Rusty Williams. I'm not here representing any group or organization. I'm just here to extend a very heartfelt thank you to the sponsor and supporters of this amazing piece of progressive legislation. After years of nonstop mean-spirited attacks on cannabis consumers, environmentalists, abortion and reproductive rights advocates, and the LGBTQ community, should this legislation pass, we'll finally have a way to fight back. Whether you pray to Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, the flying spaghetti monster, Foghorn Leghorn, Iron Mike, or Satan himself, the West Virginia First Church of Cannabis welcomes you with open arms and blunts rolled so beautifully you'll swear they were created by divine hands. I don't have much time, but I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you all into our congregation. We believe that bodily autonomy is the most basic of all human rights, and access to abortion and gender-affirming health care services are fundamental tenets of our faith. We believe that the spirit of the Creator is in and of everything, and that the ritualistic use of cannabis brings us closer to the force that binds us all. We don't require a brick-and-mortar establishment to cultivate, possess, or partake in the sacrament, and joining the congregation is as easy as pledging to live your life with love and respect for all of the Creator's creations. With whatever seconds I have left, I'd like to extend another heartfelt thank you to the sponsor and everyone supporting this piece of justice-restoring woke legislation, and I look forward to adding your names to the list of founders of the First West Virginia Church of Cannabis. So mote it be.
Candace Newsom, followed by Kaylin Barker.
I would like to thank everybody here, all the legislators, for allowing us to speak and have different opinions. I know everyone here seated knows what our Constitution, First Amendment says, but let's refresh our memory. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free religious or the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble and petition the government for a redress of grievances. Our Constitution does not protect government from religion, but it protects religion from government. I am here standing before you today to ask you to vote for HB 3042 to protect me, the churches, all religions from government who infringes on our rights to our religious beliefs and to express our beliefs in a kind and loving manner. The bill is modeled on the Federal Compelling Interest Act of 1993, which says, government must have a compelling interest or strong reason before it interferes with somebody's freedom of religion. So I respectfully ask you to please vote for this bill. Thank you.
Kaylin Barker, followed by Alyssa Clements.
I'm just going to leave you with this. The ones screaming the loudest are usually in the back of the closet, and I suggest you let that one marinate. But I just want all of our elected officials to know, as a gay, I am a safe person to come out to. I am here for you if you ever should need me. We all deserve support in our journeys to find our true selves. It's what queens deserve.
Alyssa Clements, followed by Molly Arbogast.
Hello, my name is Elisa Clements, and I'm the Director of Public Affairs for Planned Parenthood South Atlantic. I'm here to speak in opposition to House Bill 3042. This bill is part of a larger, harmful campaign to push a political agenda against the rights of LGBTQ people and access to social services, health care, and employment for all individuals in our state, and should be seen as just that, not a protection, but an attack. When religion is used as a justification to deny health care, it puts patients' health and well-being in jeopardy and can cause catastrophic harm to those who need urgent care. No one in need of emergency services should have to worry that they will be denied treatment based on someone else's religious beliefs. Yet many are advocating for the passage of RFRAs as a way to deny Americans, most often women and the people in the LGBTQ community, access to health care and health insurance. No West Virginian should have to worry that they won't get medical care based on someone else's religious beliefs. I urge you to vote no on this bill.
Molly Arbogast, followed by Emily Womaneldorf. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Arbogast. I can pronounce that.
I'm Molly Arbogast, Director of the West Virginia chapter of the National Association of Social Workers. As many have stated, freedom of religion is a right already protected in the Constitution. Whether it's the intent of this bill or not, one of the things this bill would do is allow health and mental health care professionals to legally refuse service to individuals based on their own religious beliefs. All West Virginians deserve the right to receive unbiased health care regardless of someone else's religion. The profession of social work holds to a code of ethics which explicitly prohibits social workers from practicing, condoning, or facilitating any form of discrimination on the basis of many characteristics, including race, religion, ethnicity, age, sexual orientation, and more. We are duty-bound to work against and prevent discrimination. Bills like this will do harm and will also exacerbate our workforce shortages as young professionals seek to work in a state where civil liberties are actually protected. We ask you to vote no on this bill.
Emily Womendorf, followed by Betty Rivard.
I'm Emily Wommeldorf,
Close.
and I'm with Planned Parenthood South Atlantic, but I'm actually here to read a statement on behalf of my friend Ash. My name is Ash Orr, and I am a trans-Jewish West Virginian. Religious freedom is a fundamental right, but it does not give anyone the right to harm others. HB 3042 would give people a license to misuse religion, to discriminate, and could be used to trump nearly any law, including the 18 municipality non-discrimination laws in place across our state. Under this bill, an employer could fire their employee who remarried after a divorce or who got pregnant when they weren't married. A pharmacist could refuse to provide a patient with HIV medication. A counselor could be exempted from state licensing requirements, leading to instances of conversion therapy. A suicide hotline operator could deny help to someone in need of an emergency medical care. Again, religious freedom is a fundamental right, but it does not give anyone the right to harm others or be above the law. For these reasons, I'm asking that you vote no on HB 3042. Thank you. And I have a longer version of this statement that I would like to submit for the record.
Absolutely, absolutely. Betty Rivard, followed by Emily Black.
Thank you. I'm Betty Rivard. I'm a citizen advocate based in Charleston. The original federal RFRA bill helped to protect religious minorities from discriminatory government actions. State bills have changed the context and intent of the original bill to allow primarily evangelical Christians, including private individuals and businesses, to impose their values on the rest of us and discriminate against people who do not share their same values. The result is that people like me, a mainstream Christian, and those in other religions are restrained in passing and implementing laws and ordinances based on our U.S. Constitution that embrace universal love. Supporters of this bill are, in effect, removing my freedom to follow my church's core belief that we are all called by God to carry His light out into the world. We are here to love everyone as God loves each one of us. This bill is based on a very different view where church members pick and choose who to love, support, and respect. It also opens the door to overturning local ordinances in cities and towns that protect us against discrimination. Vice Chairman Fast, I appreciate you and others holding these public hearings in the respectful way that you conduct them. I am just so tired of our views going nowhere in the decision-making process. This bill represents a supermajority in this legislature that was elected by a majority of voters. Less than half of our state's eligible voters voted. The defeat of the amendments in this last election has thrown a 2-to-1, has shown a 2-to-1 opposition to the legislature taking on more power.
Thank you, Ms. Rivard. Emily Black, followed by Margaret Chapman.
My name is Emily Black, and I'm a board member from Planned Parenthood Vote South Atlantic. As someone who deeply cares about everyone's ability to access reproductive health care, I am extremely concerned about a bill like HB 3042 and the way it could be used to deny people in our community life-saving care. Religious freedom should be and is a fundamental right, but misusing this to harm people and deny them care is not what our people need. And we know that people are actually being denied reproductive health care due to religious objections. Leanna S. shared with us, quote, "The doctor I was initially going to told me that they could not give me a birth control prescription because I was having sex. He said we are a Christian-run doctor's office." Please consider the impacts of a bill like this. We are already living in a state with little access to reproductive health care options. Religious freedom is a core part of our nation, but it shouldn't be used to place one set of beliefs over another. Thank you.
Margaret Chapman, followed by Eli Baumwell.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I'm Margaret Chapman Pomponio. I'm with West Virginia Free. I'm also an Episcopalian, but really that should not matter. I share that only because I find the supposition that Christians are an oppressed class, at best, very baffling. Religious liberty is enshrined in the Constitution, both the federal and state, as others have said. What should not be enshrined in state law is the right to discriminate. The government has already made substantial accommodations for religious groups, but this isn't enough for those clamoring for this bill. They actually want to be able to discriminate based on perceived race, sexual orientation, and need for basic reproductive health care, like birth control and abortion. The list goes on. Simply, this bill opens the floodgates to bigotry and inequity in the Mountain State. The fact that this bill is specifically being used for even more attacks on abortion is dizzying and offensive to those that this body has already harmed by banning it. House Bill 3042 sends the crystal clear message to our own people and beyond our state borders that West Virginia is not welcoming, is out of step, and flips our state motto on its head. Passage of bills like this are saying that this legislature hopes that mountaineers are not always free. Might as well change it to West Virginia. Freedom for some, not for all. The majority of West Virginians do not want this. We want a brighter West Virginia. I ask you to please reject this bill. Thank you.
Eli Baumwell, followed by Molly Kennedy.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. My name is Eli Baumwell, and I'm the Advocacy Director and the Interim Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union of West Virginia. The ACLU opposes HB 3042 and similar Religious Freedom Restoration Act bills. Now, don't get me wrong, the ACLU supports religious freedom. That's why we supported the 1993 federal RFRA. That was designed to protect people, especially religious minorities, from laws that impacted their ability to engage in personal practices of their faith. Unfortunately, people have seized upon a good idea and turned it a shield into a sword. RFRAs today are promoted by organizations and ideologies that aren't concerned about individual religious observances. They are focused on circumventing laws that require fair and equal treatment. Don't believe me? Here's my challenge to you. Exempt the protections provided by the State and Local Human Rights Act. You'll understand very quickly what the crux of this bill is really about. Now, I understand that a core tension in our country is that rights will come into conflict. And the ACLU supports religious freedom. But we do not think that people who are availing themselves of the rights and protections of commercial enterprise should have their religious beliefs supersede the equal protections afforded by the state and some of its political subdivisions. That's not freedom of religion. That's oppression by religion, and we do not support that. Thank you.
Molly Kennedy, followed by Reverend Jenny Williams.
My name is Molly Kennedy, and I oppose this bill. I was a Christian. I left the church because of the hypocrisy and homophobia and bigotry I experienced. And yet I'm somehow still under the thumb of Christian theology as you quote scripture on the floor of the people's house, justify your harmful votes with talk of being right with Jesus, call those who disagree with your biblical positions immoral, and many times assert that West Virginia is a Christian state, all while feigning victimhood and asserting the asinine notion that you, as Christians, do not have the freedom to practice your faith. As someone who converted to Judaism, what about my faith? You pretend to care about protecting religious freedom, but you've already let the cat out of the bag. You don't want people like me to have the freedom to exercise my beliefs. You prove that by carving out my right to abortion, something supported by Jewish law. You don't care to disavow the Nazi literature dropped on porches across Charleston. You don't care that last night people screamed, "Go back to your effing country," at a group of people holding a vigil for the lives lost in Turkey and Syria because they saw women wearing hijabs. You don't care about any of us. You want to use your elected position to shove your own religion as far down our throats as you can in the time you have. RFRA started as a just cause to protect religious minorities, and you've twisted it to serve your own interest. But as efforts are made to use these bills to restore access to things like abortion and cannabis, perhaps I should be encouraging you to do something helpful for once and pass this bill. Then you can be on the receiving end of the consequences of your own actions like the people in the state normally are. Or at least show us the respect of being honest. You won't be satisfied until you've run everyone who doesn't look or think like you out of this state.
Please hold your applause. Reverend Jenny Williams, followed by Hannah McCoy.
I'm Reverend Jenny Williams. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the faith organizer for the ACLU of West Virginia. As a Christian clergy person, I oppose House Bill 3042. Delegate Fass stated in Wednesday's House Judiciary meeting, the examples I hear of reasons for this bill indicate that if you're a Christian, you have to back down, eat your religion, and you don't have a leg to stand on. The claims that he's been told are patently untrue. The First Amendment guarantees our freedom of religious expression, and though some Christians would have you think that this is under attack, they are wrong. The US doesn't even rank in the top 50 countries where Christians are persecuted. The argument that this bill provides support to religious minorities is not supported by leaders of those faiths in West Virginia. Rabbi Victor Urecki of B'nai Jacob Synagogue and Ibtisam Baratzi, Vice President of the Islamic Association of West Virginia, oppose this bill. And the American Atheists submitted written testimony opposing this bill. So delegates, when faith leaders from Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and the atheists agree in their opposition to a bill, you must reckon with the fact that the majority of the people in this state do not want this. To vote for it is to ignore the will of the people you represent. Thank you.
Hannah McCoy, followed by Jordan Lowe.
It is Hannah McCoy, and I'm the outreach organizer for West Virginia Free. It's a Friday afternoon. We're about 45 days through session. As an activist, I'm exhausted. As a woman, I'm exhausted. And as a gay West Virginian, I am absolutely exhausted. But here I am again. This bill is a Trojan horse that is filled with hate, harm, and discrimination, all wrapped up in a bow of religious liberty. There is no religious belief that justifies the denial of basic human necessities such as housing, health care, or any other service for that matter. We hear about how West Virginia is shrinking at a frightening rate and how we need to bring people here, but as I stand in this room, yet again, fighting another bill that is built to harm people, meant to harm already bleeding groups in West Virginia, I don't know why anybody would move here. What message are we really sending? We preach our love of the Mountain State and the community that it holds, and then in the same breath, we add stipulations and boxes for who is worthy of that love or freedom that all West Virginians supposedly have. This bill has nothing to do with religious liberty or protections and everything to do with furthering the attacks on LGBTQ+ and already marginalized mountaineers in our state. It blows my mind how concerned this legislative body is with who we are all sleeping with. We could actually look at real problems happening in West Virginia. Thank you.
Jordan Lowe, followed by Dennis Westover.
My name is Jordan Lowe. I'm 17 and I was born and raised here. I'm about to leave West Virginia to go to college, but when I finish my education, I would love to return here because Appalachia is my home and it always will be. But I'm scared for the future of the state and its young people. I'm not 18 yet. I'm a kid, and I'm scared, and I've already faced discrimination firsthand. This bill does nothing to ease my mind. I'm scared that if I return to college looking for a place to live, I may be refused housing because I'm gay. I'm afraid that I won't be able to find a job because my employer is able to fire me because of my sexuality. West Virginia's population is rapidly decreasing. Young people are leaving Appalachia because we're scared to plan for a future in a place that we're not welcome, even though we've called this place our home. Our state's motto is Mountaineers are always free. I don't feel free knowing the West Virginia Legislature is so willing to strip away the protections of my rights and my liberties. Please vote no on House Bill 3042.
Dennis Westover, followed by Jacob Hively.
Hi, my name is Denny Westover. A year ago, I stood in here and spoke for an anti-prejudice bill, anti-racism bill. And who could be against that? Well, there were a whole bunch of people that showed up and said that that bill was going to prevent the teaching of black history to its fullest and truth. The words black history teaching school, white, black, none of that was in the bill. So also today we stand here. In the very first paragraph of this bill, it says this bill relates to forbidding excessive government limitations on the exercise of religion. It has nothing to do with speaking into whether you're trans, whether you're gay, none of that. It simply says that there's limitations that the government can interfere on religion. Whether if your values and worldview and religion permits and endorses those kind of behaviors, fine. But the bill protects that. The bill also protects people of faith like myself that are a committed Christian American patriot, okay? The bill protects the government encroachment on religion. My religion, my Christian religion, your faith, your values, your religion, the bill speaks to that. This stuff about the bill does not open the floodgates for homophobia, transphobia, any of that stuff. Thank you.
Jacob Hively, followed by Elizabeth Bramello, I believe.
Thank you, Chairman Fass, for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you to the Democrats and Republicans who are in the room listening. My name is Jacob Hively. I represent the West Virginia Young Democrats as the president. It's no secret in West Virginia, our #1 export are our young people. They are leaving because of what the legislature is doing. They do not think they are welcome in West Virginia. It is the opinion of young people that I represent that this bill will be used to discriminate against marginalized communities. I want to stand West Virginia. I want my friends to stand West Virginia, and I want West Virginia to grow and be successful. I think this body should focus more on growing the economy and making West Virginia a more inclusive place to live. This bill, as it stands now, I think is too broad and leaves open far too many exceptions for people to be discriminated against based on their sexual orientation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Elizabeth Bramello, I think I'm saying that correctly, followed by Ash Scouse, S-C-H-A-C-L-E.
Brunello, you got it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. My name's Elizabeth Brunello. I'm with the American Friends Service Committee. And you know what? I think I'm an American patriot, actually. Montani Semper Liberi. Voting for this bill means you're denying the freedom proclaimed by our state's own motto to a broad swath of fellow West Virginians. This is from Charles from Thomas, West Virginia. I have many friends who belong to the LGBTQIA+ community, and that you would allow people and businesses to discriminate against them purely because of a misguided belief that who they are as a choice is appalling. It truly makes me sad to think that a group of people who consider themselves Christians would be so blind, dumb, and deaf to the words of the man they claim as their Savior. Jesus advocated for the acceptance of all people. Jesus spoke of having love for all other humans. Allowing hatred against another is the opposite of everything Jesus taught. If you truly believe in religious freedom, you would never have allowed such a bill to have gotten this far. And I just want to add, my first legislative session working for my organization in 2016, way back in that corner, in this very chamber, I came here to share the words of a gender non-binary student from Mingo County, who basically what their testimony boiled down to was, "This makes me feel scared." This RFRA legislation makes me feel scared, and it makes me want to leave West Virginia. A senator who has shown a pattern of bullying and harassment and disrespect so far cornered me in that corner and told me I was a liar. He entered my personal space and he told me I was a liar. Well, I'm not a liar today, and none of us are, so please vote no on HB 3042. Thank you.
Ash Shackle, maybe? Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Followed by Reverend Cindy Briggs Biondi.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ash Patrick Shade. I happen to be a local trans man, a father who carried his own child, gay, somebody's husband, a friend, a psychologist on the front lines of the opioid epidemic currently, and I am also a ordained minister. I happen to be a Satanist. And today I am speaking out against RFRA, or Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Based on all of that information, I know that many of you have probably written me off or think I'm just the devil and I'm immoral. That's okay. But I want you to hear me out, because we're in a divisive, sad state as a country right now. Religious freedom, it's something I hold dear as a minority faith who has been historically maligned generally. And I cherish it so much that I want to see it given to my fellow Christians and Jews and Muslims as well, because that's their right regardless of my personal opinion and hot takes. However, under this act, religious freedom, which is a wonderful thing, is being used as a dog whistle to pull whatever you want on people who don't share your ideals. And if a Christian or evangelical comes to me looking for my psychological services, I'll give it to them, regardless of my opinion, because that's the moral thing to do. And if a Satanist is more moral than you, get right with Jesus.
Thank you. Reverend Cindy Briggs Biondi, followed by Reverend David Biondi.
Hi, I'm Reverend Cindy Briggs Biondi. I'm the pastor at St. Mark's United Methodist Church here in Charleston. And as many people have already pointed out, religious freedom is enshrined in our Constitution, and I am very thankful for that. I am a lover of Jesus and a follower of Jesus. However, now I'm speaking specifically to other Christians in the room. This bill would allow, I think, for the worst impulses of our faith to have a platform. When I look at the history of the church, I look at times where Christians have used their faith in order to justify all kinds of terrible practices. Slavery is one of them. Another one would be sending Native children to the Indian reservation boarding schools. And all of that was done in the name of faith and genuine religious belief. I'm concerned that this bill would give platform to our worst impulses. We have the freedom, though, to love, to care, to love our neighbor as ourselves, which is the commandment that Jesus gives us. So I urge you to vote no on this bill. We already have everything that we need as people of faith to practice our faith freely. Thanks.
Thank you, Reverend Davic Biondi, followed by Robin Kincaid.
Hello, I'm Reverend Derek Biondi. I'm a United Methodist pastor serving a Lutheran congregation that prides itself in being welcoming and inclusive to all. I am so thankful for the opportunity to minister at a congregation that does welcome everyone. However, I can say that RFRA and things like it send a message that some are welcome, some are not. I know that when I graduated 20 years ago this spring, I had hoped that many of my classmates would return after going for education at West Virginia State, Marshall, and WVU, only to see so many of them leave. And yet we continue to get into culture wars, we continue to get into wars where we ostracize so many. Do we really care for our future in West Virginia? Because so many young people are longing to come back. Can we give them the protections they need? Or are we just going to encase discrimination in new fancy words, claiming that it's religious liberty? Thank you.
Robin Kincaid, followed by Jill Rice.
Good afternoon. I'm Robin Kincaid. My pronouns are she and her. I'm an 8th generation West Virginian and a recovering Southern Baptist. West Virginia needs this bill like a submarine needs a screen door. That is to say, not at all. This heinous bill, this piece of legislative offal, has nothing to do with religious freedom and everything to do with the most base and vile forms of bigotry. It is a piece of performative trash whose only purpose is to pay back the tax-exempt hate groups who fill the pockets of the whited sepulcher that presently is this body. It certainly has nothing to do with the inclusive teachings of Jesus, a brown-skinned Palestinian day laborer and semi-literate itinerant rabbi who wore a dress every day of their life. Jesus spent the majority of their time among the very people this bill seeks to exclude, and it is dangerous. What will this majority do after they pass this bill and it's signed into law? When business owners, based on their sincerely held religious beliefs, refuse to do business with some bigoted, evangelical Christian. This bill continues the process of dividing West Virginia against itself, and as Abraham Lincoln said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. Do not pass this ugly, shameful bill. Stop spitting on Jesus and their teachings.
Thank you. Thank you. Jill Rice, followed by Monica Ballard Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, members, guests. My name is Jill Rice. I am the Executive Director of Opportunity West Virginia, which is a coalition of businesses and organizations committed to growing West Virginia's economy and bringing people back to West Virginia. I am here to, on behalf of our organization, to oppose House Bill 3042. 97% of Fortune 100 companies have non-discrimination policies, inclusion, diversity policies. Yesterday during the committee hearing on this bill, there were a number of questions about the economic impact of this bill. And I didn't have specific examples at the time, but I do today, and we heard some of them earlier. In Indiana, after it passed the bill, Angie's List canceled a $40 million expansion of its headquarters outside Indianapolis. Indiana's Economic Development Office and tourism agencies announced that it had to hire a global PR firm at a cost of $2 million to rebuild the state's images. And we've seen similar instances in other states. We try to have a conversation and compare the state's GDPs with West Virginia's and so forth. And it really was sort of taken out of context with incomplete data. I mean, it's very difficult to say that. Since 2013, 11 states have adopted RFRAs, but only one since that time, Oklahoma, has had an increase in its economy. All of the others have had underperforming economies. Thank you very much.
Monica Ballard Booth, followed by Seth Tumler.
I'm Monica Ballard Booth, and I want to thank the sponsors of this bill and in this House for giving us the opportunity to come together and have peaceful public discourse. In supporting this bill, I'm asking for equal protection, not extra protection, for people of all faiths. Since some have questioned why this bill is necessary, I'll tell you why it's necessary. Christians are the most persecuted group in the world. Last year,
House will be in order.
Last year, the Cato Institute reported that roughly 5,600 Christians were murdered, more than 6,000 were detained or in prison, another 4,000 were kidnapped, and additional more than 5,000 churches and other religious facilities were destroyed. Religious groups experience more abuse from governments than from individuals or other groups in society. In 2018, government restrictions on religion reached the highest level globally in more than a decade. That's a report by the Pew Research Center. The next year, social hostilities were also seen, but social hostilities related to religion declined, while government restrictions remained at the highest levels. The Family Research Council reported that between January 2018 and September 2022, at least 420 acts of hostility against U.S. churches occurred. These types of acts deter people from expressing themselves, participating in public events in their communities because they cause fear and intimidation.
Thank you, Ms. Booth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor, it looks like Lloyd McDavid, followed, Seth Tumler, followed by Lloyd McDavid.
Hello, my name is Seth Tumler, and I'm here in favor of Bill 3042. I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and I also believe that America is the land of the free. I don't believe that freedom is limited to my personal beliefs. I do believe that it is for everyone. In fact, I have a friend of mine that I went to college with that's here today, and she knows another friend of mine whose name was Erblina. She was a Muslim. And when we were in college together, before Donald Trump became president, and I know you're not supposed to mention politics, but before he became president, here's what happened. She said, I'm going to get kicked out of this country because I'm from a different country and I am a Muslim. And I said, no, you're not. And she said, what are you talking about? He's going to sign an executive order and nobody will be able to do anything about it. I said, no. I said, you don't understand. I said, we have a threefold system in America that will keep you from getting expelled from this country. And sure enough, it happened. And she came back to me and she told me after Donald Trump became president, after that bill was signed for the Muslim ban and after the judiciary's overturned it, she said, Seth, you were right. And I think that we're blowing this out of proportion. What this bill is, it's a limit on government. It's not a limit on my freedoms. It's not a limit on your freedoms. It's not a limit on your freedoms. This is a limit on government getting involved in our personal beliefs and our personal business. My wife is from Florida. I brought her back here from Florida. I was born and raised in West Virginia. I pay taxes here in West Virginia. I see my friends leaving, and I tell you what, I really don't want to join the fold. I'd like to stay. My wife would like to stay. We want to be here. I have a son, and I do pay taxes here. And I believe West Virginia is wild and wonderful and can be even better with the passage of this bill. Thank you.
Pastor, it looks like Lloyd McDavid, followed by Ashley Switzer. Is Lloyd McDavid here? All right. Ashley Switzer, followed by Bradley Blaine.
An earlier speaker mentioned the CDC, so I'm going to go off script for just a second. Did you know that the CDC has now added the COVID vaccine to its list of required vaccinations for school-aged children? Did you also know that West Virginia is one of only 6 states not to offer exemptions to parents of school-aged children? That's not religious freedom. Now back to the script. I'm here because I recently learned that West Virginia ranks 49th in the nation on the Religious Liberty in States Index. I'm a teacher and was recently having a discussion about politics with some 7th graders in my school. One of the kiddos said, Mrs. Switzer, the West Virginia GOP's only platform is God, Guns, and Life. I said, yeah, you're right. God, Guns, and Life is a pretty strong platform, though. What else do you need? Good point, he said. That is why this bottom ranking, 49th, in an area where we should be at the top, bothers me so much, because it doesn't mirror the way West Virginians live their lives. It doesn't reflect the values and belief systems that West Virginians hold dear. In kindergarten terms, it doesn't match. I urge our elected officials, the GOP, the supermajority that touts God, Guns, and Life, to represent West Virginians by making our laws more reflective of the values that we hold dear. Thank you.
Bradley Blaine, followed by Bo Burgess.
All afternoon, I've sat in this chamber and heard people say, why do we need this bill? It's already enshrined in the Constitution and protected under the First Amendment. To that, I would challenge you to consider these words, which should be hopefully familiar to many of you. If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls in government would be necessary. And framing a government which to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in you must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. And dependence on the people is, no doubt, the primary control in the government, but experience has taught mankind the necessity of auxiliary precautions. This policy is applying by opposite and rival interests the defect of better motives, which might be traced through the whole system of human affairs, private as well as public. That was written by James Madison, fourth President of the United States, who also wrote the First Amendment and part of the Bill of Rights. However, it wasn't until 45 years later, after his death, that the 14th Amendment was passed, providing such a path to these protections, and the ones that we have seen adopted by half the states in the country, either by legislation such as that before you or by court order. Thank you.
Thank you. Bo Burgess, followed by Philip Williamson.
Hello, my name is Bo Burgess, pastor of a local church in Mason County, also with West Virginia Baptist for Biblical Values. I'm for this bill today, and I want to say that it sounds like myself and most of those that are in opposition actually agree. I've heard so many different times that you agree with the First Amendment and the protections for religious liberties. And so my question is, why would you be against securing those liberties through this legislation? It was back in the 1990s that our religious liberty freedoms were reduced. In 1993, Bill Clinton signed it into law. Barack Obama, as a senator, voted twice for this while he was a state senator. It seems like there's some confusion about the bill. I keep hearing the word discrimination. One analogy was used of a sword and a shield. I would argue that this bill is a shield and not a sword. In 30 years of case law since 1993, there's no evidence of any discrimination in RFRA, and I would encourage you to look that up. So instead of this legislation being this legislation doesn't allow me or a business to go around and attack other people groups. There's no people group language in the bill. It simply provides a shield for anyone who has a deeply held religious belief from government intrusion. That is the point. This protects us from the government intruding onto our deeply held religious beliefs, Christians, Muslims, Jews, any religion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
urge
Burgess.
passage of the bill.
Philip Williamson, followed by Edwina Williamson.
Thank you. I rise today in favor of House Bill 3042. My reasoning, of course, is the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. I find that this is a result of the overreach of government. I would prefer that we not use such bills, but it's necessary in the time that we live to provide that which we need in our churches to keep the government from being what they should not be. Thank you.
Edwina Williamson.
Hello, my name's Edwina Williamson. I'm a resident of West Virginia for my whole life, a small business owner for the past 40 years. I rise in support of House Bill 3042 and urge you to pass it, and thank all of you very much for your time.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our hearing. I've covered all the names on the list. I want to thank everyone for coming, and we are adjourned.